That's okay.
That's okay. Hey, safety first. Right?
Yeah, safety first. Are we all good? We're clear.
All good.
All clear?
All clear.
It's like at the Six Flags. All clear?
All clear. I need this beer.
There we go.
Hey, cheers.
Cheers, y'all.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Got the anomaly with the coffee here. Thank you guys for joining us. Birdies, Arjav and Tracy. Yes.
Here we are.
Soon to be Birdies. Is that a Birdie's hat?
It is a birdie's hat.
So tell me about the bird.
Yeah, we had our friend, 2.5, 3 years ago, as we were kind of thinking about this in DC, draw it up for us. It was kind of it was inspired by some of those Picasso, like one-line drawings of animals, and we really wanted kind of like a one-line logo.
Oh, I see it. I see it. How it like curls in the eye and then on the wing.
Yeah,
It's just like one movement.
It's one continuous line.
And he has a little belly.
He does.
Because
Which
he's
I like.
a fat bird.
It's kind of like samurai-esque, but
Except to fit my
not.
body profile.
yeah, heard?
Yeah, heard.
So my last name's Kievit, and Kievit is a bird.
Leave it to Kievit.
Leave it to Kievit. Kievit is the...
Because you can.
And you can.
You can.
Kievit is a northern lapwing, right? So it's a bird. I have as a chef, I have 0 tattoos, which is kind of... Do you have any tattoos?
None.
Okay, cool.
She's the chef and she's
Do
got
you have any
none.
tattoos?
I don't have any tattoos.
See?
Just some
All right.
burns.
Another chef without tattoos. Wow.
Okay, we're in good
call
company.
this one in. So Arjav, no, not the chef.
Not the chef.
This is Tracy, head chef here.
Yeah.
So what's the ETA here for Birdies?
Yeah, tell us about birdies.
Trace?
Yeah, so we're just...
She's the optimist, so I'll let her go first.
It's hard to get any info on Birdies right now.
Flying
So,
soon to
yeah.
Austin's east side.
And that's about what we got.
That's it.
That's all we got so
We're
far.
intrigued here.
Yeah.
So we're just a neighborhood cafe and wine bar.
Yeah.
Figuring out the menu right
That's
now.
also on your Instagram, so we got that part too. You guys are playing with the menu.
We're messing around with the menu still. I think, we hope to be open in May.
Okay.
We don't really have a firm date yet, but
Maybe May?
maybe May, exactly, which really means in my head June, but Tracy's the eternal optimist. So,
Hey, that's
we're in the middle of construction right now and they're moving pretty quick, but
good.
it all, like, things slow down usually during inspections. So, so far that hasn't been the case, but I think at the end of next week we'll kind of have a clearer sense of when we're going to open and what the heck we're supposed to do when we do open. So, but right now, because we've been so in kind of like the operations and ordering equipment, we haven't really had time to do the fun stuff, which is recipe testing, and we've just started kind of building the beverage list and the wine list and all of that. So it's a work in progress, but we'll get there.
And so where did we talk about the location? Where's
East
it gonna
side.
be? East side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's East 12th and Harvey, which is just west of airport.
Oh,
so
okay.
Next to neighbors.
Exactly. We're just like probably half a mile east of Nixta, which we're stoked about because they're
Shout
so
out to
kind.
Edgar and Sarah.
They're the major homies. They're like
Also-
the nicest people in the world.
Right, and not tons of great food on 12th Street besides them. So you guys are bringing it.
Well, yeah, it's interesting.
to.
It's kind of cool to be in that neighborhood because there's, we're lucky enough that our landlords actually share a wall with us. They run a Baptist church that shares a wall with us, and one of the things that we've kind of tried to do over the last few months is get a sense as to the history of the neighborhood. Right?
Sure.
Like the location we were in used to be a barbecue restaurant that was run by the landlord in the early 90s. And it was a Taco Mex right after. So, the neighborhood has changed so dramatically that I think one of the challenges for us is how do we be ourselves while being really respectful to the neighborhood and the history of that neighborhood,
Sure.
right? Because it's it used to be a predominantly African-American neighborhood. And, in conversations with our landlords, I think we've learned over the years, the kind of pain that came with some of the gentrification as it moved farther east. So, one of the things we're trying to do is kind of develop a relationship with the landlord in a way that we can also tell their story, because I think it's a really compelling part of what East Austin was. And, it's important for us to make sure that whatever we end up doing in the space doesn't forget the people that came before us. So,
Wow,
I love that
that's
approach.
incredible.
So we're doing our best to learn the history, and we're talking about creative ways to kind of tell that story once we do open.
I like it.
So I love that too. Are you guys East Side? Talk about history. Johnson's Backyard Garden. Are you familiar with them?
No.
Yeah.
No, man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay. So
JBG Organics.
you're going to be using them. Have you guys visited any farmers markets yet?
The Shriekbucks. What is
There's some farm bucks. So y'all can go out and check out a little bit of
for
the
both you
produce that they have to offer.
This is dope.
Yeah, they
Thanks,
started
guys.
on the east side. That's another thing you guys can learn. And now they're out in Garfield. But everything's grown out there. If you're familiar, if you know, now you know. I mean, it's great.
If you know,
produce.
now you know.
Right. So yeah, spend those. Use them.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're excited to do that. Yeah, we're definitely fans of theirs. And so we came to Texas, 2.5 years ago?
2.5 years ago.
From
New York.
Okay.
So in that 2.5 years, I'm really trying to get familiar with the farmers here and the community, because my base was in New York for so long that it's been really fun to come back to my home state and, get to know everybody here and, see all the great work everybody's doing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
Yeah, she's a Houstonian originally.
Houstonian.
So.
Yeah, I was born in Houston,
There
Oh,
you go.
cool. All right.
Missouri City.
Right on.
Mo City.
I'm like Cypress, Tomball.
Okay.
area.
Yeah, I lived in Conroe. I moved to Conroe when I was 9. I lived in Conroe and then moved to Austin when I was 12.
Right on.
Yeah, her brother's thinking about moving out to Conroe actually right now. But yeah, Houston is so dope.
It is. It's huge.
It's like my favorite eating city in the country.
It's a wonderful
It's
eating
very good,
city.
yeah.
So many different pockets of ethnic food all around the city. I mean, they got the best Chinatown that I've ever been to. Over there, if you like Vietnamese food, they got. My God, it's ridiculous. There's this one place that I really like to go called Fufu.
Ooh.
And Fufu is it's Chinese food, right? But they were so popular with their initial restaurant that they had opened a second location in the same parking lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for them.
That's when you know you're doing good.
They're doing good. They do a tremendous hot pot. It's fun over there.
That's gangster. I love that.
So am I guessing that leaving Texas was a culinary endeavor?
Yeah. So I graduated from University of Houston back in the day. So that
in
was
the Hilton School, or
yes.
Okay.
2004, and then I went to Barcelona for a bit.
Barcelona.
Yeah. Yes, that's the one. And then started, realized I really wanted to start cooking, and I didn't just want to be, a GM at the Four Seasons as my long-term goal, and then still with the restaurant owner has always been my goal. But I think being in Spain and, being at the Boqueria and everywhere, there's just amazing produce, seafood, just everything that I didn't always see in Tomball, Texas at our Kroger's really inspired me to go for it. I actually had a professor in college, and he said, I know you're struggling figuring out what you want to do, but do this. When you're in Spain, get a bottle of cava, shut the door, lock it, drink all of it, and then write down what makes you happy. And so I did that, and sure enough, it was food. And I was like 22 at the time, which is kind of late to start professionally cooking for many. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to go for it. So went for it, moved to Chicago because I had some friends there and always loved the farmers markets there. There were just really interesting vegetables I'd never seen, cardoons and these Italian chicories and some little restaurants that I just loved. So I begged for a job at Lula Cafe, which is in Logan Square, for 6 months.
Persistence.
It took a while. I had to have some other odd jobs here and there to just pay the bills. But finally, I wore them down and started cooking there.
Excellent. Good job. And that's where y'all met.
Which if you're ever in Chicago, you got to go.
Yeah.
Jason Hamill is one of the great practitioners, and his wife.
And Leah.
Leah.
Amazing.
Great practitioners of the way we like to eat, at least.
I went to Chicago once. It was fun. I went for the NRA. And it was,
really?
Yeah, it was tremendous.
That's awesome.
Right on.
Had a good time. Went to some 4 a.m. bars and had some tamales at 3:30 in the morning.
There are a lot of those. Yeah.
The tamale guy. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, we actually met in New York. So
And you're from?
I'm from So my story is the opposite of hers. I was born on the other side of the world. So I was born in New Delhi, India. I grew up there, essentially. Spent the first 12 years of my life there. And then we moved to the States in 1999 and moved to Portland, Oregon. So grew up in Portland, Oregon, kind of a hospitality family. My dad and mom both met working in hospitality in hotels in India. and my mom runs a catering business and a supper club in Portland to this day.
Oh, wow.
Called Holly Supper Club. And, I, being a child of an immigrant, wanted to hustle and, ended up going to school in Ohio at a small liberal arts college called Kenyon. And, tried to figure out what I wanted to do after. And Washington, D.C. always kind of called my name. I wanted to go into politics and law. And moved out there, spent a day at a law firm, and I was like, this sucks. Like, I did not want to push paper,
Took one day.
Took one day. And, my parents actually talked me out of it. They were like, why are you doing this? Like, you love food. And some backstory, like when I was in high school, my mom set me up with this like French chef in Portland, and I cooked through high school essentially.
All right.
I would go to like school, and once I was done, mom would drive me to work. I'd be there till like 9. I didn't have to clean up, thank goodness, and I'd come home, do homework till like 11, and then start over the next day. So I've been in restaurants for as long as I can remember. But yeah, I in DC, worked for Wolfgang Puck for a year, and then had probably the most formative experience of my career at a restaurant called Comey. I completely kind of changed my perspective on what hospitality can be. But it was a small restaurant. It didn't really have that much room for me to grow. So moved up to New York in 2015 to help open up one of Danny Meyer's new restaurants called Untitled at the Whitney.
Oh, wow.
Which is where we met. Tracy had worked for Danny for 4 years at that point at Gramercy as a sous chef. So moved there, and then I spent a couple of years there before moving to Gramercy. And then we moved down here.
Wow. So you moved up the ladder quickly.
No, I feel like I actually kind of
some
the
time?
opposite.
Yeah.
I was definitely a line cook for a good while. I went to cooking school upstate in New York at CIA.
Okay.
And then did an externship at this restaurant called Crew that was tasting menu only, very intense type of kitchen where, you didn't look up other than to say we, and you did not have an opinion.
We chef.
That's, you literally kept your head down and you worked, which was actually, I learned a ton, and I'm appreciative for my time there.
Yeah.
And then after cooking school, I was a TA for a little bit. So we had a fish room and a meat room at school. So essentially, I did like 3 months in the meat kitchen doing, like butchery and grinding meat and all that stuff. And then 3 months in the fish kitchen. And then went back to New York to start, I guess, professionally cooking in the city.
But those two runs that you had in those two, the meat and the fish kitchen, I mean, that's huge. Not a lot of chefs get that type of experience, breaking down animals and cutting fish. And, I mean, that's like, I think as being a chef, one of the biggest things of being a chef is kind of like, understanding that love for repetition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like Thomas Keller preaches that kind of stuff. I mean, the ability to be able to do the same thing every day and try and do it just a little bit better every single day.
Yeah.
And I think that is really what is important for a chef.
Absolutely. Actually, when I was in my time starting off in Chicago, I read a couple Michael Roman books that talked a lot about Thomas Keller, and they were really influential in like
Mind of a Chef, Soul of a Chef, Reach of a Chef.
Yeah, Soul of the Chef. I read all of them, but Soul of the Chef was my favorite.
Yeah.
And like the part where Grant Achatz was cooking, it's funny because I came in one day after reading that chapter on Grant. If you haven't read Soul of a Chef, read it.
It's incredible.
And I came in the next day and he goes, "What happened?" And I go, "What do you mean what happened?" And he goes, "You got good." And it's like there was something about reading that chapter that really connected to me in the way I wanted to work and getting in the flow and trying to do the dance rather than just like herky-jerky, frazzled, line cook. And I was very green at that time, so that's what I was. And then it kind of slowly began to start to come together, I think, after that. So yeah, they were definitely influential.
Those
to me.
books were powerful for me too.
For sure.
Yeah. And also Grant Achatz book, what is it? Is it Life on the Line or? Yeah, that's an incredible book.
That's a great one. He said in that book, I thought my last great meal was going to be at Crew. And that night I was working the Amuse station.
Oh, really?
Cool.
So
How cool
full
is
circle.
that?
Yeah, small world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is awesome. So some great experience. And you guys crossed paths, and you had not met before that.
No, I mean Tracy's path was kind of like a New York and Chicago cooking path. So
Yeah.
she'd spent some time at Del Posto and Blue Hill, before coming to Gramercy and kind of getting into the Danny orbit. And she
Yeah.
was following kind of like the food path, and I was kind of following the wine and service path.
So
And-
there's a little yin and yang here.
Yeah,
It's a good
exactly.
combination.
She's the optimist as well. Are you a pessimist?
I could be optimistic. I like to think of myself as an optimist, but with construction timelines, I've learned that optimism has its limits. But we met in New York. I started off as a server because I had to kind of work my way up in that group, and Tracy always laughs and jokes. She was like, "Who's this guy?" He's like walking around like he owns the place. And,
He is confident.
Yeah,
He has some swagger.
Yeah.
You got to have that, especially in the front of the house.
Got to.
Yeah.
none of it's earned, unfortunately. But
Fake it till you make it.
yeah,
That's what they
exactly.
say.
But we became fast friends, and we'd spent a lot of time together, really just as friends and colleagues. And she was dating this other guy at the time, and they'd broken up, and they were just like, "Should I get back together with this guy?" And I started to feel like
You're like, no.
I don't want that to happen, you know. But we were such close friends. I didn't want to mention or cross any lines till one night. You know, we just take the train home every night. One night, like she texted me. She's like, "Are you gonna make a move, or like are you just gonna keep pretending like we're just
she
friends?"
called you out.
She called me out.
Good job.
I can't believe you're telling this story.
Well, yeah, that's our story.
Okay, I have just a quick little better story to
Oh,
tell
boy.
that kind of ties
Cool.
both together.
Okay.
So
Revisionist history.
as we were friends, one night after work, as you know, one does, we were like, "Oh, let's grab a cocktail." So we take the L train over to the east side. We're grabbing a drink. Her having, I think, probably a couple Negronis each, and we were both feeling pretty confident. And I said, "You know what? You and me, we're going to open a restaurant one day." I just felt like we were really aligned professionally, and you know, both like to do our best but still have fun. And then his response was, "You know what else we're going to do?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "We're going to get married." And that's before he asked me out on one date.
There you go.
Or yeah, we're doing both. So
Right.
we did one. So we're
And I
doing
was
the
like, "Who
other.
is this audacious guy? What do you think you are? Like,
That's
what are you doing?"
unquestioned optimism on
Yeah.
my part. There you
Clearly,
go.
it worked.
It
though.
worked.
worked out.
Apparently. That's what I keep telling her. Like you call me out on it, but it worked. I
You
gotcha.
called it.
Gotcha.
Good job.
And now Birdies is in the works.
It is.
And now we're on Birdies. Yeah.
You'd mentioned earlier, like, you know, we weren't trying to play coy with Birdies. I think part of it is that we're actually discovering what it is as we go through this process. So, like, just to give you some, like, you know, when we first moved to Texas, we were like, we want to do kind of like an Italian Gramercy tavern. Like, that was the original idea, right? Then we got here and we're like, man, there's a lot of really great restaurants here, you know, like, what is it like that we need out of Austin? Like, where do we want to go? And like, you know, how can we add real value to this place that's already got a ton of value, you know? And I think after having that conversation, we realized like, Austin doesn't really need another high-end restaurant. Like, there's plenty of really good places to go out and celebrate, you know? What we wanted was a neighborhood spot we could go to twice a week without, you know, blowing a load of cash, that had a cool wine list that we could hang out and catch up over lunch. So that's kind of like the genesis of how Birdies 2.0, this version of Birdies that we're opening, is going to be. When we had this logo built, we were planning on doing like a fine dining
I see.
restaurant. And over time, it kind of evolved into this idea that we just wanted to be a neighborhood cafe with a wine bar. You know,
Very
and-
approachable.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
very fitting for Austin.
And I think the location that y'all have chosen and the area that it is and the growth that's happening over there and the clientele that you're going to be reaching, I think it's a perfect spot for it too.
It's so small. Like, you guys are going to laugh when you walk in there. It's like
Well-
1,100 square feet, you know?
Wow. So it's under construction. Let's break this up with a little potty talk.
Yeah.
Oh, good question.
How's the bathroom looking so far?
Yeah.
Oh, did you see the original photo? It was.
I have.
We had a photo. I'll show you photos later. It's,
Okay.
It was.
it's coming along nicely. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
The original bathroom, you could see cars driving by.
Oh, yeah?
On Harvey Street. So
Nice.
there was some serious love that was attached to this
Sure.
bathroom.
So you're designing your restaurant. You've been here for 2.5 years. What bathrooms have caught your attention
Yeah,
here?
so
in
this is our
Austin?
Potty Talk segment. So we like to understand, like, what's your favorite
And what
restroom,
is your
the most impactful restrooms you've been to in the
Maybe
area.
this conversation will influence how your bathroom will look.
Well, it's interesting you say that because like bathrooms are a big deal for us.
big
Like,
deal.
It is a huge deal in a
It's,
restaurant.
it's funny you ask. We
Potty
spent
Talk.
the
Let's go.
past few weeks talking about wallpaper nonstop.
Oh yeah,
Wallpaper. We like wallpaper.
The texture. The
Yeah.
texture.
There's so many different
Design.
things about wallpaper. You know, you got feminine, you got masculine, you got, the texture, you've got it can really make or break your
Well,
restaurant.
do you guys
Dude,
have
but the
spent weeks talking about it?
yeah, like
Weeks.
literally. So like
Yeah.
we're on a razor thin budget to do this thing. Like people have laughed us out of rooms before
Yeah.
when we've told them how much we're like spending on this restaurant. But the one thing we told ourselves we were not compromising is we're getting Toto toilets.
Toto toilets.
Because like I have spent more hours plunging crappy toilets in my career.
That alone.
That we were like, we are gonna just buy the best toilet we can possibly
It's
buy.
important.
Not a
Yeah,
bad
it's
idea.
important.
Not a
And you know
bad-
what? Like, I want to create an environment where my team like doesn't spend half their day on bad days plunging toilets.
Yeah.
Like that's not a fun way for me
No.
to spend my day. Certainly not. I don't want to ask our team to be doing stuff like that. If they don't have to, everybody's going to be doing stuff like that. I'm sure they will. Things will come up, but we want to give us our best possible shot at not
Yeah.
having to do it every day. So, and there's restaurants I've worked at where I've had to do it every day. So,
Yikes.
There's nothing worse than a weak flushing toilet in a restaurant.
Dude.
A restaurant.
yeah, you'll spend money on that Toto toilet real quick.
Yeah. I think just go back to the original question. I think my favorite bathroom in town's at Jeffrey's.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
What didn't Rob say that too? Oh no, they changed it from black and green, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not black and green now, right?
I haven't been in COVID. It used to be, I just remember it feeling dark, kind of sexy, candlelit, but all the finishes were super fancy.
Jeffrey's does it right.
Good call. Good
That was
call.
my first fine dining restaurant to work in.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
I worked there in '98.
Oh, wow.
They
Right
also
on.
have-
Before Larry took it over
Yeah,
and
yeah,
became
yeah.
what it is
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Right on.
It was,
With the $5
back-
steak.
David Garrido was there. No, it was well after the $5 steak.
Okay.
How
$5
much
steak
were the
was-
martinis?
Oh, I don't know. They were probably double digits at least back then. I remember like when I worked there, it was David Garrido, right? And this was my first experience working with a name chef, and he was like the name chef in Austin. You know what I mean? And I remember he used to just, his role was to make sure everything was good and walk around with champagne. And he would just drink champagne all day. And I was like,
Amazing.
yeah, I was like, wow.
That's
But I
awesome.
remember they had those, and they probably still have them, those fried oysters on the potato chip, on the yucca chip, with it had a little bit of pico and a little bit of avocado crema, and that was like the greatest thing I ever had in my life.
that's
I was
so
like, oh
tight.
my god.
I don't know if they still have that. I actually worked in pastry just to do something different for like 6 months or so. And I don't remember that still being on.
That was my favorite thing. But
That
I
sounds
also
good.
remember that was the first restaurant that I ever experienced where the pastry department was a completely different department from the whole kitchen. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? There was like a pastry chef that was back in his own room doing his own little, and I was like, wow, this is so crazy.
Yeah.
It was incredible. That was like, I've wanted to be my chef my entire life, and I came from working at mom and pop kind of restaurants, and then I got my buddy. She worked at Jeffrey's, and she's like, "Hey, we need help this weekend." So I went and I helped, and I was just a busboy, but being able to like understand like what fine dining was, you know what I mean? It was incredible.
So let me turn a question on you guys real quick. Like you guys have been here a long time and have been in the restaurant world for a long time. Like talk to me a little bit about like the evolution of like the restaurant scene here and like where y'all see it going in the next like 10 years.
That's an interesting question, like where it's going, but how it's evolved, right? Since like 2012, it's
Well, I mean, Austin used to be like meat and
snowballed.
potatoes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like steak and potatoes. I mean, and to see it grow like from, I've been in Austin since 1989, right? I moved here in 89. And I remember when I was young, what we used to do for our birthdays, we would get to go to whatever restaurant we wanted to go to. And so the restaurants that we'd go to were Ruth's Chris, or we'd go to this restaurant called San Francisco Steakhouse.
Oh yeah, that was my favorite restaurant when
The
I was
old San
12.
Francisco
that
Steakhouse
was like it's your birthday
with the swing, and the cheese. You
Yeah.
know, oh man, it was fantastic.
Love the swing.
And we'd also go to was it Kyoto? It was the the one where you go upstairs and you sit on the pillows, the Japanese restaurant.
Cool.
And there was let's see, what was the other one? The Paggi House. The Paggi House was great. So there was a couple of spots in like Jeffrey's. There was a couple of spots in Austin that were like, different than all the other restaurants. But I mean, Austin food was pretty simple. And to see like, the Odd Duck and, I think Castle Hill Cafe was like one of the first sort of like cutting edge kind of restaurants. Jeffrey's, of course. But, I worked at Castle Hill. That was my first.
Castle Hill's not MMH, right?
No, Castle Hill was Michael Willem and I can't remember her name, Kathy, I think. But they like had, it was like a really like pushing the envelope kind of fine dining restaurant. Real high wine list. They didn't have any alcohol; it was just wine and beer. But they did a lot of Southwestern Spanish influence, and then the Ziteos and all these restaurants. But like to see it come into the like Barley Swine was probably one of the originators of the small plate kind of restaurant.
Been there yet?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the original Barley Swine, which is down in Lamar, and that's Jack Gilmore's son, right, Bryce.
Yep.
But like to see that evolution come across, I moved away. I lived in Dallas and then Houston, and I came back to Austin. So I was away for a while, and I came back in 2014. When I came back, it was, there was so many.
Yeah, it was a snowball.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, like really fast. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And now, like I guess a couple of years ago, Zagat said that Austin was the second most exciting city in the United States to dine out in, behind like L.A.
Cool.
Yeah.
And there's no Michelin here or anything like that, but I imagine.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
kinda like it that way.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
But I imagine that type of sort of, like we had, what was that one restaurant? La Vie, right? La Vie. Did y'all ever go to La Vie?
Heard about it. That was before our time here, though.
Yeah, a lot of this, like, I've been in Texas for 2.5 years. So
Okay, so
my
very-
contacts for a lot of these names. Tracy's like, oh yeah, San Francisco Steakhouse.
Well,
Like, I
that was
like,
kind of
never
like
heard of it.
Yeah.
San Francisco
chain.
Steakhouse
There's one
was
in
like
Houston.
a chain. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it was like you go. I mean, they had like the escargot and they had the good steaks and stuff. I remember I went in there and applied, and the guy was like, "Here's a sugar caddy. Sell this to me. We'll call it a widget. Sell it to me for $100,000." You know what I mean? And but it was a.
I would have loved to hear that conversation.
It was terrible. I failed bad. I failed miserably. But I mean, that was like where you went and you spent your money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Those types
But
of places.
to present day, like where is it going? Especially after last
Well,
year.
now it's much more. I think it's much more moving to a much more sort of like communal sort of dining, right? Like a lot of small plates.
Could see
The
this.
idea is to sit around and spend more time around the table rather than everybody getting their own big giant entree with a big steak on it.
Right.
Right. But I wonder, like, I guess like one of the things that I've been thinking so much about, I think both of us have, is like, does COVID fundamentally change the way people eat?
That's the question. Yeah.
I think yes.
Do people just go back to normal? Like, that's the thing, is like,
I don't think so.
I don't think
to be
no.
honest.
I mean, I started in 2019. I started a private chef service, right? So I've been cooking in people's houses.
Yeah.
From and I've worked in the restaurant since, let's say, I graduated culinary school in 2004, right? So I've been working in restaurants. Like I started work. I think I got my first job in a restaurant in 1993. And so I've been working in restaurants my entire life. And in 2019, I started working in people's houses. And during COVID, everybody got more comfortable understanding what it's like to really pay attention to each other. You know what I mean? So I think that sort of like connection is going to be very prevalent now. People are going to be less. I think people are going to stay closer to home. The neighborhood eatery is going to, like you're talking about, is going to be much more prevalent.
Yes.
I think people are going to, yes, they're still going to go out and have those, special dining moments. But I think the 2 day a week, the neighborhood eatery is going to be where it's at. And I think where you're at over on the east side, that's such a growing
East Side's booming.
area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I mean, it's perfect for what we need right now. And I think that familiarity, trying to bring something that people are going to be able to relate to is going to be huge.
I just hope people come. Like it's like
Oh, they're going to come. I guarantee it.
Every other day, I'm like,
People
Tracy,
will
do you think
come.
people will come?
And the thing about it is now is I think with the way that it is, and I would always preach this. I did a little bit of consulting with restaurants, but the thing about it is it's so much harder nowadays to win people back. You know what I mean? You get a less opportunity for failure.
Yeah.
Or the gap for failure is so much bigger now.
Yeah.
So you really got to be able to dial it in, and I think sometimes in that situation, less is more. You know what I mean? So if you can, a lot of these old school restaurants, like say Cheesecake Factory, they got like a novel for their menu. You know what I mean? It takes you like an hour and a half to decide what you want.
Yeah.
Right. The last 3 chapters are cheesecakes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you can like find something that's going to be familiar that people can relate to and tell a great story, then you're going to win.
But I mean, back to the COVID changing things, I think it does. I think there's no way really around. I think the last year was pretty impactful on people's psyches, and there's going to be a lot of people who just don't kind of go back to. But they opened it up 100%. Of course, we're back to wearing masks here, but which is fine. But do you agree? I mean,
I don't think it's ever going to go back to
completely normal.
Completely normal.
Well, the reason I asked this, I was, on Eater last night, just kind of catching up on news, and they had this poll out. I think Aaron had a poll out that was like, how are you thinking about this new landscape, right, for people? And it's like, I think there were 3 questions. Like, I'm not going to restaurants if they require masks was one option. I'm only going to restaurants that require masks was the other option.
Polarizing. Right?
And the third option was I prefer going to restaurants without a mask, but if it's not the only factor. And I was surprised to see some of the numbers, right? Like something like 40% of people had said, or it was either 30 or 40, it was like a third of people had said that they were only going to restaurants that did not require masks anymore. So, it's interesting to think about like the psychological game that's kind of going on. And this is within the confines of Austin, right? So I think we have this impression of Austin as sort of like a city that follows within like whatever certain parameters of, we think of it as the little blueberry in the tomato salad that is Texas, right? But it's interesting to kind of like think about like how people are reacting to this. Because if restaurants are asked to be the referee, right, that's when we get into trouble, right? Like restaurants shouldn't be the ones policing this stuff.
All right. Well, that's why they do things like pass we're wearing a mask again.
Right.
But I mean,
but then now the city is in conflict with the state, right?
And they're putting it on the business owners now.
So I guess like one of the things, I've noticed over this last year, and there have been a lot of incredible people, Good Work Austin in particular, who've been fighting this fight really hard over the last year and a half. But, there has been an absence of leadership on a level to kind of give us guidance on what the future looks like. So I'm kind of curious to see as we cross this threshold into like this post-COVID world, what that looks like. Because
not to interrupt you, but we got to bring bags to the grocery store. I feel like
in some parts of Austin,
most, right? But I think it'll be no different than that. I mean, masks will stick around for a while, and it's just going to be like that. It'll be like you go to bring a mask. And I think it's like in other countries, I've heard, right, that when you're sick, it's like they usually just wear masks anyway. So I think that'll stick around. That's just what's going to happen here.
I think, certainly when I'm on an airplane, there's probably like no chance I'm not going to wear a mask anymore, right? Like it's like psychologically, I'm like, you start thinking. I watch TV shows sometimes. We were talking about this the other day. I was like, even though we're taped like 2 months, I'm like, oh my God, they're not wearing masks,
right.
And
isn't it crazy?
Or watching them hug. Remember?
You're like, oh, what? Like you're not supposed to do that, And it's like,
but how do you feel? Are you going to go to restaurants without a mask? Are you comfortable with it?
Not yet.
Like my daughter wants to go to the movies, and I was like, wow.
I went to the movie with my son last week. Yeah.
That's where it all came from.
Last month.
But the reason I brought that up was like, from my seat, which is like the hospitality seat.
Yeah.
Like you talk about touch, right? And not physical touch, but like an emotional kind of touch with people. And, so much of that requires expressions. Like you're reading people all the time, and like you're trying to figure out how they feel, and you hope they walk into your restaurant or leave your restaurant feeling a little bit better than when they walked in, right?
Yeah.
And And then there's this so there's this emotional aspect to like connecting with people that like has kind of been shut off from restaurants. Restaurants are now providing a service that's a little bit different than they were pre-pandemic.
Yeah, everybody had to pivot.
Yeah. So I'm really kind of curious, I guess, to get off this tangent, but
It's true, though.
just kind of curious to see like how
It's kind of a sad reality.
It's a good thought process.
how
though, that go
hospitality
into it.
feels.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
I feel like as soon as people can, everyone can get vaccinated. I know it's happening now, and some people in hospitality have gotten vaccinated, but not enough. And so, in my opinion, I think that restaurants are I can't speak what everyone should do, but for us as owners, if we were open, let's say today, which is March 11th, I think we would absolutely require wearing a mask because I wouldn't want to put our staff in that danger if they have not been able to be vaccinated.
And that's, and I think that with that too, I mean, it's probably better to err on that side, you know what I mean? Because
sure.
you're gonna sound like you care.
It's well,
You know
and
what I
we
mean?
do, yeah,
It's a
and
responsible thing
we
to
do
do,
care, and you don't want any of your staff to come to work scared. You don't want there to be an outbreak. You don't want a guest to come and get sick from another guest or
You don't
whatever.
want to be that guy.
There's just, and it's not
There's
that big of a
layers.
deal,
Yeah.
It's like just put on a mask and then we can all be much safer. And then,
well, you say it's not a big deal, but
But
apparently it is.
I-
It seems
yeah.
simple, right? We
Yeah.
can probably all agree at this table it's not a big deal, but
I mean, for us,
then
though,
you
like,
get-
it's interesting because for me, like, we contextualize a lot of this decision making behind, like, whatever we do based on how we are taking care of our team, right? So, like, for me, it's like, if there's a point where it is safer, like, if we are in a safe environment and our team's vaccinated and the team feels comfortable with guests coming in, because in 1,000 square foot space, like we've obviously like invested money in like scrubbers in our HVAC and all that kind of stuff. But we're counter seating. Like we have a counter where people are going to be sitting by the kitchen. Like, can we seat people there when we open? We don't know yet, right? Like it's going to all determine, like depend on what the environment looks like in a couple of months.
do y'all have outdoor seating?
Thank goodness we do.
have
Big backyard.
We have a backyard that doubles our seating or triples our
Yeah.
seating.
Are y'all going to climate control that or?
Not yet. We don't have not in the budget yet, but we hope
Just
by,
get Ramblers out there.
yeah, that's
there
what I'm
you go.
saying, man.
There we go.
Rambler hit us up. No, I'm just kidding. But like
No, don't
we're-
kid.
They should. Don't
Don't
kid.
kid.
Don't
They
kid.
will.
Don't kid. We're just we're thinking a lot about how to take care of our team and make them feel safe and comfortable. Whether that's like on the financial front, like on the health front, like there's a lot of stuff. I think this pandemic has kind of brought to the fore a lot of the things that were for a long time kind of broken in restaurants, right? Like and we've had an advantage in some ways to kind of not be in it. It's like preserved our optimism. The fact that if we'd opened right before this pandemic,
Yeah.
I think we'd have a completely different perspective than the fact that like we are so lucky to be like have been able to postpone.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know?
Well, now
Yeah.
you can kind of work around it,
Right.
so to speak. I'm curious about the cuisine. Can we talk at all about it? Is it,
Yeah.
you mentioned Italian earlier, but you kind of strayed off
Well,
that.
I worked at a fancy Italian restaurant in New York for a few years called Del Posto. And I've also worked in a lot of American restaurants that are very inspired by French technique. However, I think on all of that is kind of, things I like to cook. However, in terms of what is Birdie's going to be, I think it's going to be simple, seasonal, kind of rustic. The menu's going to change a lot.
good.
It's going to
That
be
is good.
very small because we're a small spot, and I would rather serve the best ingredients we can get our hands on, and then we're out, versus have a huge menu and things are like sitting in the freezer or not fresh. So
Less more often.
exactly.
So are you going you said rustic? Are you going to use any wood?
We're not going to have any wood in the beginning. We'll have like a Weber smoker that I'll probably put on top of the range.
Yeah.
To
Gotta
smoke
make
some
it happen.
things. I guess there's potential to build something maybe in the back at some appropriate point if our landlord will let us, but not quite yet. I kind of like the grandma style of cooking. I think I've like stepped a little bit away from like my tweezery restaurant days and just kind of want to cook. I don't want to be like when people are like, "Oh, cook with your soul," like it's so corny to say, but just
It's what it is, though.
simple
You're cooking
and-
from the heart.
Yeah.
No flower petals?
Flower petals and tweezers.
I
No?
mean, marigold doesn't taste good. Like, can we just be honest? It's not good.
Yeah, I think part of the reason I actually fell in love with Tracy was she used to cook for me, and I think there's like this like connective tissue behind like that. Like, and I think about like I come from like a culture where you feed people.
Yeah.
Right. So to show love, like when my mom, like when we go home, Tracy's like, I can't eat anymore. Like, Lena, stop feeding me.
Right.
It's like part of it is like, that's how we show love. Like you're full, like keep eating. You know what I mean? Like you're not as full as you could be.
Sure.
And I think Tracy's food at its best is like really simple, but like kind of rooted. And like she's a fanatic about olive oil, so there's like 4 or 5 different olive oils that we're like probably gonna get, and but my favorite dish that she's probably tested so far is just like a simple pork and beans dish. It's like super simple, glugs of really good olive oil, cooked like perfectly. But it's just about simple stuff that
But you think about pork and beans and how like familiar that is. I mean,
totally.
like Van Camp's,
Yeah.
Totally.
right? I mean, but you can do so much with it. I did a pork and beans once. It was a pork belly and butter beans.
Nice.
And I mean, pork and beans, just to say it, excites me.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, we just want, I guess the way we thought about the food is like, let's just kind of cook the way we do at home.
Yeah.
And hopefully people like it. And if they don't, we can,
I
pivot
think
to
that's a good approach.
I do too. And the word rustic, I mean, that's like home
always-
cooking.
Yeah.
What was your favorite meal she cooked for you? Like what was the one that like
Of
that
all
was like, oh, I'm gonna marry this
Well,
girl?
I remember the first time we were still like, we hadn't even like, it was like when we were still friends, but I was sitting at the bar, like closing out tips for everybody. It's like 11 at night, and she made me this like sardine toast.
Like Spanish style.
It was just like a piece of toast.
Yeah.
It was a sardine that had been grilled. It was sardine, right? It was a
I think
sardine.
it was
It
sardines
was a small. It was a
or
baby
White
fish.
anchovy?
mackerel.
It was mackerel. It was mackerel.
Yeah, it was a grilled mackerel with like grilled sourdough rubbed with like a lot of garlic
Even
and
she
olive
remembers
oil,
that.
some grabiche, and then like a bunch of whole herbs.
And it was super simple.
sounds
And I was like,
delicious.
this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is what I want to eat all the time, And I think, working in fine dining for a lot of time, we were like really impressed by like the technical elements of everything. But, even at Gramercy Tavern, like there's this like fine dining, like, behemoth that does a tasting menu behind. And there's like this rustic kitchen up front that cooks on a wood grill. And if everyone's being really honest, like everybody wants to eat at the tavern,
Right.
like the dining room's cool, but like it's the tavern.
There's
That's
a
like
place
once
for
a
it.
month, but the tavern is like every
like
other day.
you want to go there every
Right.
week, and eat like a dozen oysters and a burger and like just be there, and
Yeah, and I think the other thing is with the word simple in talking about cooking, a lot of people shrug off simple as whatever, and it's not whatever. It's
Right.
like cooking simple to me is harder than
Yes.
cooking complicated.
Sure.
Because whenever you're doing 7 things in one dish, there's just so much happening that it's easy to make a mistake on a few of those things, and maybe people won't notice because they're just like,
It's like chili
yeah,
covered up with those spices.
right, and the sour cream and the cheese and the onions and everything. But I think whenever you cook with less ingredients, the pressure's kind of on, and you have to be more thoughtful and you have to be more careful and mindful about what you're doing. So I feel like as a young cook, I thought that the food that I think I'm going to cook now isn't good enough or smart enough or ambitious enough. And the more I've cooked and experienced and kind of grown up, I kind of realized that is enough. And
Less
that's
is
what I
more.
want to eat and that's
Yep.
what I want
Less
to
is
cook.
more. Arjav mentioned like looking out for the staff, and you guys have a smaller space, so you're obviously thinking about who you're going to hire. How many folks? How big is the kitchen? How many people you think will be in there?
Probably in the beginning. So in the beginning, we're probably going to just open for like lunch and brunch for the first month, and then around a
And
month.
probably do wine in the evenings, kind
Right.
of with maybe a snack or two. But
Yeah, and then probably after that, do some kind of dinner snack experience at night. So I think we'll probably start with like 4 or 5 cooks and me,
good, yeah,
and then add a couple more on if we need to once we roll out the nighttime menu more.
and 4 or 5, like not all working at the same time.
Yeah.
So like 4 or 5, like
It's
all
a small
day.
line, though,
Yeah, it's
right?
gonna be like
It's very small.
it's a small line. Yeah.
Have y'all been to Daidui?
Yeah,
We just went.
yeah.
Yeah, for the
I
first
really
time,
like
2 days ago.
their sort of program where they do like every night they have a different sort of like, feature.
Feature.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
a supper club or whatever. you know.
Yeah.
Daidui keeps coming up, and then I keep mentioning Vic and Ale's next door. Right,
Those are
Never
great
been
spaces.
there. Vic and
What is
Alex?
it?
right next door. They that chef Nick Patrizzi, which Patrizzi's is Italian on the east side, but he opened Vic and Ale's. It's like a Cajun place.
Oh, cool.
It's very cool. Yeah,
Check it out.
Yes, please do. And if you might see him strolling around in a little gumbo cart, giving out gumbo to people in need. He does that too.
That's
That's
a good
awesome.
guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
it.
I think that Daidui led us into yesterday the same segment of your favorite places to eat.
Oh yeah.
here in
So
Austin.
yeah, this is a good. This is one of our favorite segments. We like to know
It's-
where
it used
in
to be the
town-
only segment.
This has been actually since the first episode. We'd like to know where you guys like to eat in town. Your favorite spaces in town.
Especially new
You
here.
first, right?
New here.
Pressure's on.
Let's see. I really love Valentina's Tex-Mex.
Oh,
Wow, you're right next to him.
I
I
just
know,
think
it's-
those
there's.
tortillas.
So good. Best tortillas.
I mean, I just
best
love that
tortillas.
because it's so of the place. Valentina's Tex-Mex you cannot find anywhere else in the entire world other than Austin, Texas.
good.
It's just so delicious every time.
It's ridiculous, yeah.
It's not something we're going to whip up at home, like that kind of barbecue. And it's just mind blowing. I think they do a fantastic job. And we're at Granny's Tacos on the east side, like probably twice a week.
There you go. So taco lovers.
Yeah, for me, I mean, like tacos are like of this place in a way that
Oh, yeah.
you can't really find a whole lot of places, right?
Who wants
So
to talk about it?
I do want to talk
Taco
about
time.
it. Yeah, it's,
Taco.
I mean, what Sarah and Edgar are doing is incredible.
It's
I
ridiculous.
think Quantos tacos are like arguably the best. Like
the Taco Mafia.
they're
So
so
good.
sick.
Yeah.
Have you been to La Tunita?
Yeah, amazing. Which is like
Jerry.
there's-
Thank you, Jerry.
she hasn't yet. I was talking about it again yesterday, but those are they're just rad, and like the kind of quality of food that they're putting out is kind of inspiring to us, right? Like
Yeah.
we're working out of a small space. We're like, oh, this is possible. Like
Oh,
you can.
yeah.
It's incredible. And to go from he went from a menu with all these different things and he just wiped everything off except for the video.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. The focus.
I also, I mean, for me, I'm biased because I worked there for 2 years, but I think Olame is pretty special restaurant. I think
Nice biscuits.
great biscuits. I think they do things the right way.
Yeah.
They care. They got passion about
They've
what
got
they do.
Rambler on the menu.
Yeah. Rambler.
And
Ramble on.
Fotoge is a really good dude.
Yeah.
He once we got laid off because of COVID, covered our insurance for as long as he could.
Good
And
people, yeah.
It's just
Family
things that you don't have to do, but you do because you know what you're doing, why you're doing what you're
He
doing.
respects
right?
the industry. He respects the people.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of respect for him. I love, Tavel and what Rand and Kevin are doing.
Yes.
I think they're pushing the envelope in a lot of places and kind of moving the scene forward.
Yeah, I've been working at Hestia for the past year. I mean, off and on throughout COVID, as whenever we came and open, and they do a fantastic job. They're awesome to their people, make great food.
Yeah.
Definitely, also love them.
And then there's the new dudes on the block, like Samataro Pizza. That's I drive 30 minutes to eat pizza there, once a month.
Where is that?
It's
Have you heard of that, Danny?
dude. It is.
Cimitaro?
It's the best. It's the best that style of pizza. So Buffalo does the best Neapolitan style in town, I think. But if you are into large pizza slices, New York style
New York
pizza,
style.
Like
Yeah.
Little Deli style.
yeah, yeah, and I know
Is that
I
east
love
side?
it. It is it's on the west side. It's by Westlake.
Okay.
Good.
It's
Yeah, we should go check it out.
Good
It's a
for Westlake.
drive, but Dan Sorg and Isaac, who run it, are just the nicest dudes in the world. They're just they care about every single thing. The design is beautiful, and it's a food truck. It's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable.
I mean,
what they're
imagine
doing at a food truck.
the impact that food trucks have had on Austin over the last 5 years. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It was just the last year.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Is it
after
there?
COVID. Yeah, COVID. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we're just lucky to be part of this community. I think that's the thing that I keep being reminded of is, anytime we've like asked Sarah for some help, say, hey, like we're thinking through this problem, like how do we solve it? She's always there. Edgar too, and like
Smart and Biggie on the fly.
I met her on New Year's Day.
oh really?
Yeah, I had a dinner on New Year's Eve, and my friends invited me over to the house on New Year's Eve, and they came over on New Year's Day. Edgar didn't make it, but Sarah was there, and that was like one of the best conversations I've ever had.
Yeah.
We had a great time.
Sarah's great.
It was a phenomenal experience. And then for my birthday, a couple weeks later, we went.
It was a dual birthday. I think.
Yeah. We went in Nixta,
Oh, cool.
and
Edgar took care of us.
we got
fun.
we got styled out, as you say. But yeah, it was a great day.
Yeah, it's just it's such an amazing community, and we are so lucky to have had as much support from everybody as we kind of got this going.
I think y'all will be a welcome addition.
Well, we've tried to lay low as we've kind of gone through this process, because there's so much going on in Austin all the time. Like,
Right.
And we just got past the winter storm, and another way
Snow
our
vid.
community
But Eater
stepped up was amazing.
Oh yeah, agreed. Eater hasn't even done an article on y'all or anything yet.
Yeah, I mean, I
that
think,
means you're like super under the radar.
well, it's partly because like I think at the end of the day, after what this community's gone through over the last like year and a half, like what we're doing is like trivial. It's like it's just a restaurant.
Sure,
like
sure.
we're just going to feed people. So, like I think the news
But it's a
cycle
big deal.
Yeah, but there's like the news cycle is better occupied like supporting people, but like Good Work Austin, like what Next is doing. Like we don't like those are the people that need their stories told right now. Like we'll have our moment before we open, but it's really important that the people who have brought the community to where it is now get their due credit. And I think
what they did during the snowstorm.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, Edgar cooking with a freaking headlamp.
Yeah, like let's talk about how like the food industry, like independent restaurants in Austin
Rose up.
have done more for this city in the last like month
Yeah, and look what happened
than the
to
city
them.
government has.
Yeah, look what happened to them during COVID. I mean,
Yeah.
right. They
Yeah.
got decimated, begging for business, and
Yeah,
then
man.
they come
And
up to the plate.
So like I think
Serious
independent
rock stars.
restaurants deserve so much credit.
Yeah.
Not just for surviving this crap, but like
For
coming out
thriving.
and thriving.
Yeah,
and
thriving.
showing people like this is how it's
Supporting life.
done. Yeah, dude, like
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It is.
And
I mean, everybody's heart. I believe that the heart of the restaurants was so big during this. I mean, it was. I live out on Lake area, and my buddy has a pizza place, and I found out he was over there making pies. So I was like, I'm gonna go make some pies. I got a Jeep, so I drove in the snow. Right, so I went over and I was making pizzas, and we were delivering. People were like from the neighborhood that had 4 wheels. They were coming. They were
He
picking
drove
up
the
pizza.
wheels off his Jeep.
I did. My
Literally.
Jeep's in the shop. I have to get new drive shafts on my Jeep because I drove it too much in the snow. But people were people were coming over there. If they could drive, they were there picking up pizzas. People that had the means, they were donating money to be able to feed like the people in the hospital. We fed 300 people in the hospital.
Love
I
that.
mean, it was, and like my buddy has a brewery. He had 20,000 gallons of water, so we were delivering water to
Infamous,
people.
yeah.
We were delivering water to people.
amazing.
And I mean, that's just one tiny little area of Austin. I mean, and then you look on like the social media, and everybody that could was just stepping up and doing everything that they could. It was amazing.
It's badass. It's awesome.
And when we listen to this, when it airs, it will be in April, and people will be like, "Man, these guys are still talking about the snow." But let's reflect here in April about what that was like.
It was
it's great.
impactful.
People just move on from things, and it was a big
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And I hope we don't forget about any of this stuff in the near future.
Never
Like,
forget.
I hope the neighborhoods that like these restaurants supported come out and now support their restaurants when the restaurants need them most.
Well,
So,
right, exactly. Like that would hopefully be
Yeah.
something that is expected.
Yeah,
But May is the hopeful ETA for Birdies,
it is.
right?
May or June.
May or
We're-
June.
we're
yeah.
The
excited.
birdie will fly.
The
in
birdie
May.
will fly.
The birdie will fly, and like obviously maybe things will start coming to Instagram, or your website will open
Yeah.
up in the near future.
For sure.
Yeah,
Like,
we
I
need
hope,
to get on
we
it.
hope so too. So.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll see more of those hats moving around.
We hope
town.
so. Yeah. Like I think we're we've I we haven't necessarily just intentionally laid low. I mean, part of it was deliberate in the sense of like we don't really have anything to say yet. Like we're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even really gotten to the kitchen to just cook yet.
Yeah.
I think once we get through the mechanical, electrical, plumbing part of construction, then I can kind of like take a deep breath and then go on to the next. But like this morning, we're like meeting the wallpaper guy. We're figuring out the track lighting locations. We're looking at where the window's going to be cut out. We're looking at the location of the order counter. And so all the days are just packed full with, things that aren't, your experience and you're learning about construction versus like, we know how to, run restaurants. We don't really know about the construction part. So that's been a real learning experience.
Are you getting help from anybody?
Well, thankfully, my mom,
oh, good.
My mother has worked in construction for her entire career, and she has been a wealth of knowledge to kind of help us through contracts and all of this stuff that looks like a foreign language to,
hieroglyphs,
restaurant people.
Totally. And it's like a new vocabulary, right? So I think, and Tracy's been just killing it. Like she's running construction essentially, right? So she's like, we're so lucky that we have a great general contractor. But we've gotten
Ryan
lucky.
Stewart.
Yeah, Ryan Stewart. Right. We just have gotten lucky over and over and over again. Like we've worked really hard, but like so much of it is luck. We've got lucky. Like we ended up in Austin.
We'll call it fortune because luck runs out.
Yeah. Does luck run out? I don't know about that. Will it ever run out? I hope not.
Doesn't.
Fortune doesn't. Okay.
If you've not, you'll need to meet Eric Silverstein from
Peach Tortilla.
Peach Tortilla.
Yeah.
He's a great guy to bounce stuff off. And Spreading Co. just reminds me, there's the small husband wife.
I really like Spread & Co. We had a
Spread &
great
Co's
experience
great.
over there, man.
It's a great spot.
Cool. Check it out.
That you should check them out. That's Austin and Rosemary.
Cool.
Chat them up a little bit. There's so many people. We'll throw some more people in your direction too.
Awesome. Yeah, there's no such thing as like having too big of a community.
Absolutely not.
Like we're constantly meeting with people and getting to know people. And we've been here, feels like a long time now, but in the scheme of things, it's really not, So,
But you will be.
we will be. Yeah, we're here. We're here forever. So
Good for y'all.
Well, we're here to
so-
support it. We should do another one of these
Heck
when you guys
yeah.
are closer
Yeah,
to
love it.
opening
Or after-
before all the chaos ensues.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, and we'll hopefully have actual things to share about birdies by then.
No, this is great. No, I love the build up. Right. We've done this with Ryan at Brooklyn Breakfast Shop before he opened. He talked about his menu, and then by the time the restaurant was open, everything
Menu
it
was
all
completely
seasonal,
different.
Completely different.
Totally, and like especially like Tracy
So maybe
cooks
it's wise
with
you're-
this season.
Right.
It's like we don't know what's going to be at the market in
Right.
2 months.
Exactly.
So even with the wine list, like I have a wine list built out, but like I don't know if any of those wines are going to be even available in 2 months.
Sarah, are y'all going to do the natural wines too?
So I kind of live in this world where like I love wine, but I love
Not a bad world. to
yeah,
live in.
exactly. But I love the classics as much as I love, the new cool, like natural stuff. But yeah, like I think we'll have natural wines on the menu. I think they'll be accidentally natural in the sense that like a lot of them, I think of what happens in the Loire Valley, for example. A lot of those guys have been making, and gals have been making wine naturally for, generations.
They're just not promoting it.
Right. But at the same time, there's a lot of really cool new school stuff going on. Like what's happening, like the new California, like winemakers are doing incredible stuff. South Africa. I just had a really good tasting with Grant from Pangea, and there's like, stuff that is a revelation to me. Like every single time I try it, and it's cool to like. That's the thing about wine is like. I know nothing about wine in the scheme of things, right? Like I feel like I have these friends who just like incredible knowledge and like, this is more of a passion for me that I'm like trying to carve like my own voice around. And I think, the number one thing is like we think of Austin as like a hot weather place. So what are wines you want to like crush, like chilled reds, like crushable whites at a really good value, right? So my favorite place to drink in the city is Bufalina. I think most people would probably say like if you're into wine, that Bufalina is like your favorite place to drink. And it's in part because they've got a spectrum of things that you can drink, right? It's not just one thing. And
At a great price point.
at a great price point. So,
Are they down to just the one location now?
It's where's it? Is it up
it
north?
East, right?
Right?
It's on Burnett.
Oh, the Burnett. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But there's a rumor floating around they're popping back up on the east side eventually.
Oh, that would be
they're
great.
they have to. I think they have to move out because
Oh,
they're developing that entire block into some sort of high rise. So
I think the word crushable and wine makes me happy.
we found
Yeah,
our, we
totally.
found our soundbite.
I want people to drink
Yeah.
2 bottles rather than one. I
Yeah.
want them to drink 3 glasses instead of one.
Like
and
this man.
you know, I want it to be a place where people can like forget about the world that they're coming in. Like,
Is that going to be the headline of your wine section?
Drink 2.
crushable? It might be. It's not a bad idea.
Crushables. Drink 2.
I like it.
Yeah, drink 2 exactly. But like,
Have another.
you know,
Don't drive.
we only have
Crushable Monday. Yeah.
crushable Monday.
But Monday, nobody's open.
No one's open. We're not going to be open. So
Y'all gonna be closed on Monday.
We'll be
You
crushing.
can't, you can't
on
do a
Monday.
Taco Mafia tour on Monday. That's when you want to do it. You can't do it though.
Well, I mean, or
Mondays
Wednesday
are
is a
hard.
good day for a
Wine
wine
Wednesdays?
promo. Yeah.
Yeah.
We decided that's
But
why
nobody's
we,
open on Monday.
No one's
well,
open.
that's why you call it
That's
Taco
where you make
Tuesday.
your money.
Yeah,
We've actually had this
that
conversation, and there's we could always change. Like we say that, the only thing we're glued to with Birdies is our philosophy of who we are and the values that are important to us.
Which is great.
However, within everything else, we might well be loose,
Everything's gonna
and
change.
I mean, how
Like,
hard is it to go out to a good place on Monday?
Impossible.
it's so hard.
Yeah, but you know why everyone does it is because like a lot of places will do Sunday brunch and then close.
Yeah.
So it's like
you
a
get the
natural,
Sunday, Monday off.
Yeah, it's like a natural break point. For
I love
people,
it. I
so-
had Sunday, Monday off. Like when I
best.
was at Castle Hill, I had Sunday, Monday off, and they actually we were closed on Sunday, but Monday we were open, and Monday they had a completely different crew working on Monday. So we were Tuesday through Saturday crew.
It's the greatest weekend
know what I mean?
available.
Yep.
Sunday, Monday.
Right? Sunday, Monday was always my schedule.
I love that.
Sunday you get to
schedule.
hang out with like your 9 to 5 friends, and then Monday you get to do grocery shop.
Yeah,
while, like,
whatever you got to
nobody
take
else
care
is
of, you
in
got to
the
pay your
store.
bills,
It's
you got
awesome.
to get your license, whatever.
Awesome.
Monday,
No one's there.
but as restaurant owners, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean our accountant was like, "Well, let's see how year 1 goes, and then we can talk about your hours." But we hope I just hope we add value to this community.
You will.
I
that's,
think you
that's,
will.
That's what at the end of the day. That's we were going to measure ourselves by how loved we are, less judged by like what our reviews look like, right? Like it's like
Well, everybody's a critic, so you can't really
Everybody's
judge
critic.
yourself on that.
yeah, and like
You can't please everybody all the time.
Yeah, I mean, and it's going to take time. Like the thing is, people walk into a restaurant like second week and expect it to be a fully realized version of what it will be. Like, like I think about what Nixta's doing now with like, Sarah's influence on the food and her like heritage, and like it takes time to develop that voice, right? And I think it'll take us time. Like this is the first time like we're doing something for ourselves. So like part of this is like there's a process to it. And one thing, I think we live in this world where like things move so fast that we kind of lose the sense of longevity. And like, I always ask myself like, Union Square Cafe has been around for 35 years now.
In New York.
Like, in New York. Like 35 years. Like Gramercy Tavern's 25. Like, like how do you build for the long term, right?
Yes.
Like that's the question. And how do you get beyond like getting your face in a newspaper article or a publication, which we all want, right? At the end of the day, like everybody wants validation, but like how do you look past that to see like where you're going?
Well, I
And
think you are. You're thinking about where you guys are setting up, trying to respect the area. I mean, you're on the right path.
I hope
think
so.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Humble.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. We'll see.
Yeah. And maybe that is how you build for the future.
And also, what is it? What do they say? The destination is in the journey.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and the process is like we keep saying like let's get lost in the process,
Yeah,
right? Like
sure.
and that's how we went from like a fine dining restaurant to where we are now. It's
Yeah.
like,
Well, I think I love the story so far.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Can't wait
guys.
to see that little birdie fly.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Me too. We're excited to have you guys once we come open. We'll keep you guys updated and
Yeah. Please keep in touch, and we'll
Do the
we'll
same.
stop by and stuff, and
for sure.
we'll get you back on here too.
Sounds great, guys.
Yeah.
Right on.
And if you guys want to drop by the construction side, that's where we live. So
Right.
you
We'd
can,
love to.
you can come see
Grab
what
some tacos
you
and
can
bring
see.
over.
You can see what we look like. Next
Can
time
we
we're
bring
next
some
time.
cameras and share?
maybe we'll talk about that.
We want to see the bathroom.
Yeah, the bathroom. This bathroom.
Bathroom's looking much better.
The bathroom is right now is just like studs. So in another month, you'll probably have some more to see. But
Okay, cool.
if you're in the neighborhood next to, come drive by.
Maybe we can crush some wine.
Heck yeah, dude! I'll bring a bottle. We'll just in the backyard while they do demo and crush wine.
Sounds good.
Dream about what the place will look like.
Yeah,
We'll do
man.
that on a Crushable Monday.
No doubt.
We'll make it happen. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
you.
Right
Yeah,
on.
thanks for having us.